All right, welcome everyone to the Koochiching County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. Would you please help me open with the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. First item of business under county business is to approve the proposed agenda with additions and or deletions. We do have one addition under environmental services. It's a notice of low canister site attendant resignation and to approve a new attendant contract, and we would add that under item E and call it E4 for that addition. And with that addition, no deletions. I would accept a motion to accept with the addition.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Next up is to approve the minutes from the September 10th, 2024 regular meeting.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing no discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you. Next up is financial business. Chair would accept the motion on items A, B, and C. Which is approve courthouse claims, approve highway claims, and approve public health and human services claims.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any discussion on the claims? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. And next up is to approve warrant void. Looks like Koochiching Road and Bridge for $215.92. I believe it was lost.
Lost in the mail.
Lost in the mail.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Roach.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. Any discussion on the void? Hearing no discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. The next up is to set the preliminary 2025 county tax levy. In your packets and for the public, if you need, we have where this levy increase is going and what it's for. And I'll let Administrator Cole explain a little bit about the two areas where we are collecting this for and kind of go from there.
Sure. So, just for some background, county directors submit their budgets, and the budget is put together for the board to review. And historically, the board sets a preliminary budget at where the budgets come in at. The preliminary levy is due by statute by September 30th each year. And then, while the board can reduce the preliminary levy, they cannot increase it. So the county's timeline for budget reviews start actually today after the regular board meeting. We start reviewing line item budgets. And from there, they have an opportunity to make adjustments with directors to reduce or maintain the preliminary levy. The budget, as submitted by directors, came in. The big changes moving into 2025 is the county bonded, took out a bond this year for the jail in the amount of about $15.5 million. And in order to make those levy payments, or those bond debt payments, the county needs to levy about $989,000. For that is equivalent to a 15.2% levy increase. There's been some other increases in maintaining the level of service the county provides in general revenue. To balance the general revenue budget, it would require about $650,000 or a 9.99% levy increase, for a total levy increase of 25.18%. Now, there are also some one-time costs that the county is looking at using reserve funds to pay for. Those things right now are the first jail bond payment, interest payment that's due in February of 2025. That's about $403,000. There are some non-jail construction costs that the jail bond could not be used for. Those are about $744,500. And then there is a roof replacement project over at Forestland for the Health and Human Services building of about $340,000. So that 25.18% levy also includes a reserve spend of county dollars of $1.48 million for those projects. The other funds, with CONCON, their budget came in at a deficit of $3,400. Environmental Services came in at a deficit of $404,000. Highway, a deficit of $10,000. Land and Forestry, a deficit of $63,000. And Public Health and Human Services at a deficit of $340,000. As it sits right now, those funds would use reserves to also fund their budgets as it sits today. But again, we are moving into line item budget reviews, and directors will present their budgets to the board for consideration and for any types of adjustments.
Thank you. Adam? Discussion? I think at our committee of the whole, this is a process. I know Administrator mentioned that this is necessary that we set this by the 30th of this month. That doesn't mean it's going to be that. We have looked at this, but we had discussion earlier at the committee of the whole here about this here. We went over it extensively. We already did some budget reviews prior to this, and again, looking at that here, there may be areas in room for improvement, but a lot of these departments are already deficit spending. The one-time deficit costs, personally, I don't have a terrible issue with those. I think that's part of this year. This is not going to be an ongoing cost. The $1,488,000 that would be, the jail bond payment. Obviously, that is a cost. The non-jail construction expense, which is tying this building to that building, that's a one-time cost. That's not going to be, an expended annually. And the Forestland roof project, it only leaks when it rains over there, but that roof has been, problematic for many years now, and I think getting that, on the docket too is going to kind of boost the life of that building and make it a little bit nicer for some of the folks that are over there in those areas where they may potentially leak. So I think those are good projects and also under consideration. But there are funds available for those projects there. The funds that we don't have available is general revenue, and I think some of the general revenue expenses where our insurance overages come out of, I think, is one big one. And I think that's 18%. And I don't have the number right in front of me, but I think we're at 2.3. So 18% of 2.3 kind of where we're at. So we're in the 370,000-ish, 380,000-ish area of an insurance increase. And generally speaking, last year, that's where that increase came from, was general revenue. So you can gobble up, over half of that 650,000 without even basically saying anything. It's health insurance coverage, and I understand that that's all very important as well. So, but we also have some considerations on some new spending and some interdepartmental spending as well. But we're here today to kind of make a decision on where to run. This is the budgets. This is the way they came in. And there's been extensive work already, kind of getting this to where it's at. I think with the budget expenditures, general rev expenditures, pre-budget, I'll call it. There's another $1.4 million, $1.5 million right there. So, and that would be considerable too. So we'd be looking for a motion to set the preliminary levy at what recommended. I think it's recommended at 25.12. I have it in front of me here. And I will turn it over to the board with that. 25.18, excuse me.
I'll make the motion to set the preliminary tax levy at 25.18.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner McIntyre, second by Commissioner Roach. Any discussion?
I would like to, when we go through these line items, actually set in December, I'm hoping we can get that down, because that's a lot, but we got 15% is the jail bonds right off the top, so if that wasn't in there, we'd only have 9, and then it wouldn't be so bad. But I think we got some work to do.
And 5 of that was insurance costs.
Yeah. And these are real numbers. They're all been vetted, and just recently with the insurance, this was just a couple of days ago, a week ago, with the insurance numbers that came in, and that's at 18%, and that's the lowest it is out of whoever bid on these. So the bonds are set, the payments are set at the interest rate. I know the interest rate went down recently, but we're locked in, and we were locked in earlier at maybe a smidge higher of a rate, but it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. You can kind of wait too long and maybe get a higher rate too. So you can't predict the future all the time either with this stuff. But any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you. Next up, item 4 is to consider approval of the Rural Fire Protection Association 2025 rate structure. You want to come on up?
We're flipping a coin to see who's coming up.
Okay.
It's me.
Hello.
Hello. We have no rate changes this year, everything the same as last year. That's all we got.
Well, appreciate all the work you do. I know it's...
Oh, thank you. The board works hard on making sure everything's done and new equipment, and we've had a good year. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, heard nothing but good things. So
hopefully it stays that way.
absolutely. Yep. So the rate structure, just residential still will be at 90. Okay.
Mhm.
And then the commercial
we
rate.
instituted a change last year in commercial rates, but we're still sticking with those this year. So everything else will remain the same.
And that's based on valuation
Yep.
throughout, and then Rainier is a separate
Yep.
entity
Mhm.
that you deal with directly.
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, again, thank you. Thank you for being here too, and thank you for all the work that you do. And keep it going. Got good equipment, I know that. So much appreciated.
Thank you.
Wishes of the board.
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion made by Commissioner Roach, second by Commissioner Hill. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you. Thank you again. Next up, Brian. Brian, is Brian in the room? There he is. You have a few notices of hire
Yes.
and a transition of employment.
So the transition of employment is in the public health department, where child support enforcement officer moved to the family-based service provider position. We used to have it posted as a temporary position. It was never filled. The person that was in the prior family-based service provider position was on educational leave and is returning as a social worker position. So we're just backfilling the position as needed, and we have a posting open to fill the enforcement officer position.
And will that create an opening from that position then too, or?
Yeah, probably. Well, depending on if we hire somebody internally or externally. We've had one internal candidate, but
Okay.
it could be external as well. So
Okay, but we're covered under blanket authorization on that?
correct.
Okay. So maybe just go through, first one here is temporary hire in accordance of Madeline Lawrenson.
Yep, Madeline Lawrenson returned effective September 9th to be a temporary student hire for the highway laborer position.
Right. And next up, we have notice of hire of a couple of E911 dispatch corrections.
Yep, we had Maverick Golden start effective September 17th as a part-time E911 dispatcher corrections officer, and Riley Jacobson is expected to start on October 1st in the E911 dispatcher corrections part-time.
Excellent, thank you. You have transition of employment from transport driver to transport driver and part-time E911.
Yep, Owen Amundsen and transferred effectively September 23rd from being just a transport driver to a part-time E911 dispatcher and corrections officer. It's really good news that we're getting part-timers in to, fill those positions to help corrections. So
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's a bit of a rotating door there, but certainly appreciate those folks stepping up.
yeah.
And congratulations to the folks moving along and moving through their job career here, so appreciate that. Anything else for us?
That's all I have today.
All right, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
We have Public Health and Human Service, Warren Boyd, that's all you got today?
That's all I got. I got an easy one for you guys.
Oh, yeah, you can handle this.
We got, there's actually two of them on there, so.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that,
Yeah, and the first one was just a incorrect vendor. So that's why that one was void, and the other one was for, trainings that were canceled.
yeah. Okay. Wishes of the board. Thank you, Commissioner Hull.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Next up, we have recorder business. Consider approval of a printer scanner copy release through a similar company that we're already using, Marco, is it right?
Yes, we already have a contract that admin, the Veteran Service Office, Attorney's Office, and the Auditor and Treasurer are all underneath a contract. The machine that we currently have, we've owned since 2014, and the service life is over. So we're just asking to amend that contract so that we can also lease a machine from the same company.
Sounds good, and they're happy in the other departments, I hear.
Jones Hitch is really happy with the contract, so I think it's a good choice, and it's more cost effective than buying a new machine. We were the only ones that owned our machine previously. We ended up paying a monthly fee for maintenance and supplies anyway, but this will definitely decrease our costs.
Okay. All right. coming up. I guess the term of the lease is 60, is that right, 60 months?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Wishes of the board.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And motion carries. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Lindsay.
Thanks, everyone.
Right, sheriff's business. Carrie, hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing well.
You guys watching the walls go by?
Yeah, I took a couple pictures. How many? They had like 4 walls up when I got here.
The first one I filmed going up, it took 4 minutes to get it from the truck to in place.
4 minutes.
They should be able to do 7 today.
7 a day.
Yeah. Each one weighs 40,000 pounds.
There's 1 on each truck.
2.
Oh, 2 on each
To a
truck.
truck.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
At least 2 of the small ones.
Oh, okay. Interesting. People got their spot picked out over there, I heard, so.
Yes.
Name wrote in the sand. Not funny, I know, not funny. But you're looking at kind of providing a different telephone service for folks over there?
Yes.
Yeah.
We currently have Reliance Telephone. It's set to auto-renew in February. Looked at some of the different changes, some of the different companies that are out there, and we would like to switch to NCIC.
They have better rates, better service?
A lot more options. The devices they have right now are actually, they're like an iPod Touch, so they're pretty small. The device will get a little bit larger. It'll allow them to do things such as anger management classes, better video visitation, where you can actually see the person on the screen, not quite so small. There's kind of a reward system for them if they do some of the classroom stuff. If you complete, say, 10 anger management classes, you get to watch a free movie. Not a whole lot, but a little bit of a reward.
Right.
So,
Well, that sounds good.
Did the inmates pay for this, or does the county?
there's a little bit of a fee for the county, but we do get reimbursed back for some of the cost. The inmates pay for their calls or video text, whichever, at a lower rate than Reliance, I believe, and then we get a portion of it back as well.
Is there a total? You say you have a $4,000 5-year initial contract term?
Which I believe is about the same as we were paying Reliance, if not less.
And then the fees above that, the permitted fees, that's all inmate take payments and things like that, text messages, etc.
Yeah, it's, right now I believe it's 25 cents a text message. 25 cents per call, and now the rate is gonna go down to 16. So they'll be able to make more calls, more accessibility to their family, and then we get a percentage of that back as well.
Good.
So a better deal for everybody.
Better deal for everybody all the way around, plus the extra programming options that Reliance doesn't offer.
Sounds good. Wishes of the board?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any discussion? Anything else to add? Nothing? Okay. All right, hearing no other discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And motion carries. Thank you, Gary.
Signature in here? Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey, Wayne.
Morning.
So the first item on the agenda for us is related to our RFP results related to the truck scale replacement in the transfer station. The truck scale is the scale below the tipping floor and is the original scale that was installed when the transfer station was built nearly 30 years ago. It has served the county beyond its life expectancy and is now in need of replacement. We advertised and sent out requests for proposals for the truck scale replacement project, and we had 4 companies that showed interest, and we received 2 proposals. We received a proposal from Prairie Scale Systems, Inc., from Horace, North Dakota, in the amount of $149,370. We also received a proposal from Kennedy Scales, Inc., Coon Rapids, in the amount of $119,845. Prairie Systems proposal included a scale with a concrete deck that will require additional foundation work, which is the most significant reason for the difference in pricing. Kennedy Scales proposal included a scale with a steel deck that will utilize the existing foundation. Kennedy Scales schedule includes shipping the scale to our location in 4 to 6 weeks, and then scheduling the work, which they estimate to take less than a week. Based on their provided schedule, it appears the work will be completed in 2024, which is nice to have that work done at a slower time, obviously. The scale project is included in the 2024 environmental services budget, and I recommend entering into an agreement with Kennedy Scales. I do believe Tim from Kennedy Scales is online, so if there was any questions for Tim, certainly he will be available. So.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hey there.
Morning.
I think Tim was involved with the original installation of our old scale. Is that right, Tim?
October of '95, 0 degrees in International Fall.
That puts a timestamp right on you, you know that, right?
Yeah.
So you've been with them for a while. I think we had a little discussion. This would be is this a certified scale or certifiable scale?
No, for a couple reasons. The manner in which you're using it primarily is the reason it can't be a certified weight. When we say certified, we're particularly referring to what's called legal for trade with weights and measures, meaning that device is used not unlike a gas pump to compute a price for a product or service. So it's registered in commerce. The reason you can't use your tipping scale legal for trade is, number one, it's not long enough to weigh the entire vehicle simultaneously. So it's what's called split weighing. That's not legal unless you're Minnesota State Patrol doing law enforcement. So if you had a straight truck per se that was on there and you had an empty weight and a full weight, you could charge for that net weight and that load. However, we would have to make maybe some accommodations on the foundation. So for a scale that's legal for trade, for instance, you have to have a concrete approach for the first 10 feet, which you have on one end and more such on the other. And then you have to go a third of the length of the scale, which in this case would be a third of 47, 10, 20, 15, 34. So say 16 feet. We'd have to have 16 feet of concrete on the incoming end, and then we'd have to have 6 inches of clearance underneath, which you do. So it could be legal for trade, but not the way you're weighing trailers with the tractor off scale.
What disruption to the transfer station does this have during installation that week? So we would have to make accommodations for any waste that comes in to be dumped at a different location than our tipping floor. It would probably be on our parking lot, and then we'd manage the waste and place it in in one of our trailers. So we'd set up an area temporarily for that purpose. Originally, when we were proposing this, we had some preliminary discussions with MPCA about it, and so we just have to notify them for the permitting process and how we do it, and making sure the waste is placed in the right place and not, not mishandled, I guess. So, but yes, we would just manage it over the. I think Tim had said once the work starts, it would be a 3-day process, 3 or 4 day process. You thought? So I estimated a week disruption, but we could manage it at the transfer station. So. Is there any value to the crane scale? What's the plan? Is that resold or scrapped, or what happens with that?
I think the current scale doesn't have any value. Tim, would you agree? I mean, at this point, that old scale couldn't be salvaged for anything at this point?
No, the weighbridge itself has 1 foot in the grave and another on a banana peel. However, you do have the identical scale outside that's used occasionally. So the goal, and it's listed in the RFP, is to salvage any of the load cells and stands, the stainless steel junction box, and the indicator, in the event that those parts can be utilized on the existing scale outside. As far as the deck itself and suspension links and everything, it's ready for the landfill. I will say this, we've had some decks taken out like that where snowmobile clubs will use them to span, say, a ditch on a trail, or we've actually used them for riprap along the riversides of Minneapolis, if you can believe that. The city will let you put those down to eliminate erosion. And what you have there is two 23.5 foot long modules that are concrete and steel. And I mean, they're pretty dilapidated as far as the steel portion and the suspension that rides on the load cells. But as far as the bridge structure, if you wanted to repurpose those and you have a snowmobile club that wants to use it as, set it on a couple of abutments and use it for a bridge across a creek or something, you could do that. I've heard of it done.
We actually have a creek right now up here that they're looking to do that at, so that might be an option with that for repurposing it.
Was that on that new trail?
Yep, over by Boondocks.
So when the installation occurs, you could set those off to the side in in the area of our yard, and then they could pick them up if they felt like they could use them. Otherwise, we'd have to demo them.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
How's the foundation that we're setting this on? Have we looked at that? So if we take this out and then we come into another week and a half delay or two, that's
About that.
The foundation's in good shape yet, so I don't think we have any issues there.
okay.
The only thing I would add is that there probably will be some additional expense when we divert the waste out of the building. We're probably going to end up looking at renting some kind of a loader, like a woods loader or something for loading our trailer. So I don't expect the cost of doing that diversion to be more, it's going to be less than $5,000 for the week or something. But just so you know, there'll be a little additional expense there.
Do we have $100,000 of ARPA money?
We do. That
Committed
was
to
set
this?
aside for this project. Yeah. Yeah. I think Tim has his hand up there. Tim, you got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to opine on the question that Wayne responded to with regards to the foundation. So currently what we have is what's called a variable footer foundation. You've got 3 piers with 2 washout slabs in between. And the existing scale has what's called a 14-inch profile height. That is to say, from the top of the steel base plate that's grouted to the concrete pier below, it's 14 inches in overall height of that scale. What our intention to do is provide a little bit more immunity to those conditions down there, is to remove those 3/4 inch thick steel grout plates and the inch of grout underneath, and then go directly to the concrete piers with our base plates. And in doing that, we're going to add an additional 3.5 inch high riser or a booster, so those load cells are sitting that much higher up off the piers. And Wayne knows from experience that that's going to give them a little bit of leeway where you get material accumulated. And, you know, the biggest problem is when it accumulates and freezes, that's when it can start to tear components apart. We've gone up and down the keeping the area clean, and they've been doing a great job in the last few years, because it became evident that some of the debris that accumulated was, you know, causing issues with the weight. So I will say that as far as the foundation condition, the only thing we're going to do to modify it is we're going to cut in a steel embed plate, the two end walls for the scale to check against, physically stop its motion. We're unable to see the backside of the foundation because it's against that wall and it's inaccessible. I don't expect that we're going to have any issues. I've looked closely at the one outside, but you know, we're, let's say 95% that we're not going to run into issues with crumbling slabs or piers or anything. So just kind of throwing that in there. Obviously, this RFP was with the understanding that we've got workable foundation to retrofit into. So that's all I want to say.
I'll just add to that, you know, when I came on, we were having a lot of those foundation issues with a lot of water. We made some improvements at the transfer station to direct water, you know, do a better job of directing water away from the transfer station. And then also, you know, just maintaining our drains. There's a drain right at the bottom, the base of the scale, and you know, maintaining that and keeping it open is really important. And I know for years that part of the freeze-up problem was that we were not getting proper drainage, and so we've improved that over the years here, and the guys have been doing a great job of, you know, continue to maintain that and identifying issues before they become bigger issues, so that we can address them early to not create bigger problems with our scales and other equipment.
The current scale honestly spent the majority of its life operating underwater, because that has been a problem area since the building was built. It's the very lowest point in the entire operation, so if there's any water backup, that's the first place it backs up. So, and it was really common to have water right level with the top of the deck. Everything was completely underwater. We ran pumps in it. We tried about everything to keep that thing dry for years. It was a real struggle. But now we commonly or often have the drains jetted, where they come over and jet the lines out, because it's just, there isn't enough flow. It doesn't flow fast enough for the sediment not to settle out in the drain lines, so they plug pretty often. But you know,
We maintain it.
yeah, it's just a phone call now and we have it jetted out.
And then the other part is the site grading around it. We've been working on that constantly, and we continue to do that. We also added gutters on the, you know, rain gutters to, you know, direct the water away. We never used to have those on our building, so we've done a lot of improvements to try to, you know, manage water that is has the potential to enter our foundation for that scale. So it's much better.
You date Tim. Tim, I was there when the building was built. I was helping backfill around the cement walls. So I'm with you on the date stamp there.
Yeah, that was when I learned about runnings and 0-degree Carhartt wear and good boots.
Yeah, I was hanging on a wire on the sediment on the ponds out there. There was a wire there, and I had to shimmy out to rehook an impeller, one of these agitators, and it was cold that day too. So I had to shimmy out there.
You know you're dating yourself.
Yeah, and I feel it too. So I can still feel that crook from that cable. But yeah, no. Point of it is that it's been there a long time, and we've gotten our useful life out of it too. So, and the numbers are kind of where you thought they would be.
You know, the prices always are more than what you want, but yeah, I mean, we went out for bids. We received 2 bids. This Kennedy Scales is the low bid. That's why I recommend it. And you know, plus he's got a huge amount of history. You know, that company has been involved with our facility for a long time, so I feel comfortable with that. So.
And a 12-year warranty.
Yeah. Tim, can you talk about the warranty on the scale?
Yep, so the scale we're proposing is a Mettler Toledo steel deck truck scale. It's called their 200 series. It's the heaviest built scale they have. It has a load cell network that is not anything like the old scale. The old scale had what we call analog load cells that were not designed to go underwater, and as Wayne stated, they regularly, were submerged. This scale has stainless steel jacketed cable network, and the load cells are all purged with an inert gas, and they are rated IP68 69K, which means high pressure washdown, and they are also rated submersible. This scale is actually designed to withstand underwater submersion. So the other thing is we don't have a junction box. The old scale had a junction box with a circuit board in it where all the cables came together. That was something that was regularly flooded, and you had water ingress, and we were typically replacing that, I don't know, maybe every other year, Wayne, or a couple of years. This new scale does not have a junction box. It's a daisy chain stainless steel cable network that goes from cell to cell to cell. You can take the whole deck and put it a foot underwater. What you will find is the deck will actually become buoyant and float because they're hermetically welded orthotropic ribs. It's constructed like a bridge. But as far as the warranty, it is the industry-leading warranty. And now I supplied some competitors' comparisons of what Mettler's warranty is: 10 years, 0 out of pocket. That means for something that's covered by warranty, and let's just be clear about that. If I'm underwater and a load cell goes bad, it would be covered under warranty. If I'm underwater and the water freezes and rips a hole in the side of the canister, obviously they would not be covered under warranty. So presuming that it's a warranty condition, Mettler Toledo covers travel time, mileage, parts, labor, and calibration 100%. It's 0 out of pocket for the 10-year term of the warranty. There is not another manufacturer that stands behind their product anywhere near that degree. Any questions on the warranty?
I had just a statement now. There is a maintenance contract required as part of that warranty procedure, right?
Correct.
Yes.
So all manufacturers typically have a stipulation that you do 2 PM visits, inspection and calibration twice a year, every 6 months, so that you can have a technician look at it, make sure everything's proper, take care of what needs to be greased or adjusted, calibrate the scale, test it and adjust it if needed. Truth be told, when we run the weights over this scale, it'll be like going through the motions. This scale will typically not change much. I say that because we've got a couple 70-footers in other tipping floors that the last 4 years we've done 8 service visits without adjusting either scale. So they perform extremely well. This service contract, and the pricing is mostly mileage getting up to High Falls from anywhere else. It amounts to $5,400 annually. That's $2,700 per visit. That's a flat rate, and that would be for the inside scale. If you wanted to add the outside scale, it'd only be another $300 per visit. So you can see, we'll do a second scale for $300. You can see where the lion's share of that is the travel back and forth. Now, we also service PCA's woodyard scales and their plant scales in town. So this pricing is already discounted and doing it with the combined scheduled travel. Now, if you had a warranty claim, like I said, you don't have to worry about us making a special trip up because that's covered 100% under Mettler's warranty.
Thank you.
I'll add one more thing. A certified, quote unquote, certified or a legal for trade scale is automatically inspected by weights and measures once a year. So even if you don't choose to have private service, at least weights and measures runs their weights and you have an indication as to how accurate or inaccurate your scale is. Since that's not illegal for trade, weights and measures has never run weights over those. So by doing this, you're basically making sure that, it's a cash register if it's an incoming scale. Yours is a fail-safe that you don't get tagged with overweight trailers and tractors going over the road. So think of it as a cash register. We're just checking it twice a year and making sure everything's good. And that's what's required to validate that warranty with pretty much every manufacturer, so.
Sounds good.
The state inspection, I believe, is somewhere in that, it was 400, it might have went up annually, probably 5, 6, so you would get the same service for, if it was a certified scale, you'd get the same service for $600.
Well, yes and no. Weights and Measures shows up and tests the scale, but they don't adjust it.
That's correct.
So they'll either
you're telling me-
say it's approved or rejected, but they're not technicians. They don't know what they're looking at other than compliance, and they are not licensed or trained to go in and adjust the scale. So
That's correct, but then he would pay you to come up and adjust it, the trip up and whatever, and you're telling us that it doesn't go out of compliance, the one in that 70-foot scale, or the ones that you've checked haven't been out of compliance on 8 trips up, something like that?
Which scale are we talking about?
The one that you mentioned earlier that,
At PCA?
no, you had said you have 2 of them someplace else.
Yeah, that's Hubbard and Polk County.
Polk, yeah.
They've got 70-footers. So those are not legal for trade. And the reason is because they're in a shallow pit foundation inside their tipping floor. So we do, twice a year service on all Polk and Hubbard scales. But no, Weights and Measures, you can request Weights and Measures to come up and test the scale. It's not legal to trade and pay for that. But like I said, they don't make any adjustments or do any preventive maintenance or inspect the scale. They just run test weights. We are licensed. We're an extension of Weights and Measures in the industry. When we put a legal scale in, we file what's called a place of service report. Weights and Measures follows up and checks it as a third-party check.
How about if we did want a certified scale, would you be able to do that? Say we bought another scale, and would that be then, would we have to go to the state to get that kind of taken care of? I know we're a little off topic there, but just say for instance, would your company be able to come up and service that, weigh it, certify it, and we would be good for Weighs and Measure, or?
So if I'm a little bit cloudy on the hearing here, but if you had a new full-length scale that you're not doing split weighing on out at the transfer station, and you wanted to, by default, Weights and Measures will be notified of an installation by the installing company, and they will be there once a year. Now, I will say that Weights and Measures has had pretty good turnover on inspectors over the year. We've gone periods of time where regions of the state have gone 5 years without a visit. So there is no guarantees on that, but generally they attempt to be there every year. So you can opt to, it's your choice and anybody's choice if you purchase a scale, to say we're just going to have Weights and Measures do the annual inspection, and if it's good, we're good. We've run into that in other places. My own county, I live in Kanabec County, and they had 3 scales here that were Toledo's and served 30 years apiece, and they only had PM for 2 years. And out of those 30 years, I had 15 years worth of test reports, and there was only 1 scale rejection out of 3 scales across 15 years, 45 test reports. Technically 2, but one of them was for something that was not printed on the ticket with third-party software. So, and yeah, these scales maintain accuracy, but again, the part of the huge value in the scale is that Toledo stands behind that for 10 years, and in order to, just like a truck, if you want the dealer to stand behind you, got to change your oil on schedule and whatnot.
So it would require us to have the $2,000 a year maintenance contract in order to keep our 10-year warranty.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's $5,600 a year. just
$2,000.
for
I don't
warranty.
know where that number came from.
$2,000.
It's $2,700 per visit, or $5,400.
27 per visit.
Oh, but the 2,000 year contract covers your visit.
What?
I mean, does that, the 2,000?
No, that was
That
an
was-
error made by Burns McDonald.
Oh,
That
I
didn't
gotcha,
come from anywhere.
Gotcha, okay. All right.
5,600 for
Yeah,
two visits?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
5,600 for 2 visits.
That's kind of a spendy warranty for something that's so good.
Well, what it is we're driving up there with a 4-axle straight truck with 20,000 pounds of calibrate test weights and a trained technician. It's 4.5 hours each way, and that's, like I said, that's the lion's share of the cost is the travel. I mean, International Falls isn't close to anybody as far as scale companies, so that's where the costs involved. You can't bring your scale to us to service. We have to come to you with all the toys, so. We unload the weights with a self-unloading crane. We drive to 6 points on the scale, make adjustments if necessary, and then we do 3 more points, and then we call it good. The technician will look at the load cells, the boots underneath. He'll look for debris underneath and advise the operators that, hey, we've got a housekeeping condition. We need to get some of this debris removed, and he'll do whatever needs to be done to keep the scale in operating condition. So. Funny thing about scales is you can ride them hard and put away wet, like this one was done. It wasn't designed to be underwater, and you got 29 years out of it, just about to the month. But that scale, when it was sold, only had a 1-year warranty on it. So Toledo is up the game with their coverage. They stand behind their products. You don't have to do annual service. I can tell you right now, if you keep it clean. We very, very rarely replace load cells in these scales, and if we do, 95% of the time it's due to physical damage to the load cell. It's not an internal failure. That's why Toledo can offer that 10-year warranty. They know they're not going to go broke doing it because their products are that well designed.
Well, we've had a scale for 35 years, and I think I can count on one hand the number of times that we've had to have it adjusted.
Is that a mechanical scale?
Yes.
Is that a mechanical scale?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So it doesn't have.
So I would
any-
assume that PCA pays 5,600 then at the same time when you come up? You do them both at the same time? You're not, are we splitting costs?
Yeah, it's an additional 300. So to do the second scale outside, if you want that done.
No, his question was, does PCA have the warranty, the annual maintenance contract where they pay $5,600?
Yeah, they've got a.
The question
we
is
do
that
all
he's
their
getting
plant
paid twice
scales
for
and everything,
driving.
so we spend quite a
Do
bit
the
of
same
time.
job.
We replaced one of their 2 Woodyard scales 2 years ago with the same model we're talking about here, except that it's got an augmented deck plate for the 175,000 pound trucks they roll over it. So that's a VTS 230 in that pit. I anticipate they're going to end up replacing the other one at some point. I don't know what route they're going to go with that. Those are 2 old Fairbanks scales that have served their time. So the one's gone, like I said. Yes, we have, and that was part of this pricing, believe it or not. And I acknowledge that's a lot of money, but again, that's bringing everything to you from 4.5 hours away and back, and staying overnight and paying a technician. So
Tim, the question was related to, is that a discounted price because now you have another
it is
scale in the neighborhood per se?
It is. That is based on us already going up there. So I mentioned earlier, we would schedule that in conjunction with when we're doing PCA. So every 6 months, we do it at the same time for you. So we would call you in advance and say, hey, when are we going to be there? Over the years, I've typically been up there, and I'll wait till they close down the transfer station and do the testing after hours to minimize disruption.
So this is planned for potentially later this year if approved?
Correct.
And then 4 to 6 weeks upon approval, the order to get them here, so they'd be here around November-ish?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I jump in quick?
Sure.
there's a good chance that we might be able to get a scale in as little as 2 or 3 weeks. That's Bettler's published lead time. And if we get one early, it can sit down at our freight contractor, Pro Trucking, down in Albert Lee, and we can have it set there until we're ready to schedule and start the project with demolition subcontractor. We can get our schedule down. That way that scale is staged in the state and we can have that delivered. We could deliver it, you know, very close to the project so that it's on the ground. And when we decide to pull the trigger on this, we are pulling the other scale out, the other one's sitting there, we don't have any delivery issues. And that's how we time that project to be done in such a short time period. So it's very possible that we can get a much earlier delivery. So
Thank you, Tim.
we'll know until we place an order.
All right, we've heard a lot of discussion here. Any further questions for Tim or Matt or Wayne?
Nope.
No? I'll turn it over to the board for a motion, if so desired.
Make a motion, let's get a new scale.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. The motion be for the recommended
Kennedy scales.
Kennedy scales. Do I have a second?
A second.
Seconded by Commissioner Howell. Any further discussion, questions?
That includes the maintenance agreement?
The 119,845 does not, the maintenance agreement's an annual cost, we just continue to budget.
So you're looking for authorization for purchase and the maintenance agreement?
We can, if you'd like.
I mean,
Yeah, no, that's fine.
You already have that in your.
Well, we would budget in 2025, yep.
For the visits?
Yep.
If it was part of this package, I'm a no. I think it's too expensive. I don't have a problem with the scale. I think the other part of the plan is a little expensive.
Just for reference, the other bid we got placed those costs at over $8,000 a year.
Right.
They all require it in
For the
order to keep
maintenance?
your warranty.
But we don't have to have that in the motion if Commissioner Roach doesn't want it. So right now we're motioning on a scale for the cost from Kennedy Scales for 119,845, and anything beyond that would be something that Matt would deal with beyond today. So we'd be buying the scale today, and then if there's a maintenance agreement, he can either come back and vet that and have an RBA for that, or have it in the budget, and have that approved through the budget. That would probably be the better way to go to get this here, because I think we do need the scale, and I think we can always talk about the ways and measures later on too, you know. So if it's unreasonable or seems unreasonable, maybe there'll be a little more time for research too if we need it. So if we're okay with that, we have a motion and we have a second. And any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And motion carries. And thank you, Tim, for the explanation. I appreciate it. And it's nice to see you. It's nice to see you at the same company for that long. So they must treat you good.
35 years, on August 28th, I rolled past, so. I appreciate everybody's time there today, and especially the questions. I always want to make sure that everybody feels comfortable about what we're talking about, so.
Appreciate it, Tim, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks. Next up is the certified delinquent commercial solid waste service fee list. This was not in the packet.
We just brought the list to you today, just because we take payment right up until the date we certify.
Yep.
So it's an annual obligation of the county to certify a list of commercial non-residential entities which have not paid the annual solid waste service fee. Any entities which do not pay the fee by the date of the certification by the county board will be listed on the delinquent commercial solid waste service fee list. The county auditor will add the delinquent fee with a 10% penalty to the tax statements due in 2025. I recommend the county board certify the delinquent list so they can be added to next year's tax statements.
Thank you, Matt. Wishes of the board?
And the number on the list is typical
Yeah, there's,
every year.
yeah, it's 47 entities for a total of, with the penalty of $10,906.50. And that's with the 10% penalty fee on there. So this will be added to the 2025 tax statements for these properties.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Thank you, Commissioner McIntyre. Any discussion on the delinquent list? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Next up is to consider adopting the 2025 Environmental Service fee schedule.
Sure.
And we went through a little blip earlier here at the committee of the whole. I know we've done lots of research on this over the course of years, I'm sure.
Yeah,
So,
we've been talking about this for a long time, and
Yep.
I know there was some discussion in previous solid waste advisory committee meetings, but you know, although the cost to manage waste has continued to increase every year due to substantial inflation, the county solid waste fees have not been adjusted since 2020. Our solid waste ordinance states the rates for charges payable shall be as stated in the rate schedule for solid waste management charges adopted by the county board by October 1st of the year preceding that year for which the adjusted rate schedule shall apply. So that's why you're seeing it today. The rate increase proposed would increase the tipping fee for a compacted cubic yard of waste from $24 a compacted yard to $30 a compacted yard. Although the proposed tipping fee for uncompacted waste would remain at 2024 levels or $12 a yard, which is the same rate since 2020. The rate schedule includes a minimum charge for disposal of uncompacted MSW. So instead of currently we have a one bag charge of $1.50, and what's proposed in the schedule is having a minimum charge of a half yard or 4 bags, and that total is $6. And when we did research, I know Wayne did some research of quite a few counties in the northern half of the state, and those that had minimum charges, range from $2 to $10. Various places did various things, and they all have different situations. In Fort Francis, they have a minimum charge of $18, so it's just various. Everybody has a different way of how they pay for their operations and how do they make it work. So. The difference in income, I know the county board is concerned, about, the costs associated with our services, and has asked, all the department heads to look at their budgets and try to figure out how do we pay for services, and so this was we identified the compacted rate as something that could be adjusted, of course, upon approval of the county board. The amount of the volume that we collected in 2023 of compacted waste was just around 16,000 cubic yards. The increase in revenue based on this proposed rate would be around $96,000 annually. So it's a 25% increase of our charges. That's what the amount of the change would be. So I mean, it would be a substantial increase in our charges, but it's something that we felt could be adjusted, and trying to take into account your request related to budgets. And I know we do have one of the haulers here, friends.
Wade, what'd you figure it was gonna cost you an increased revenue on that deal if we?
Just what I hauled last year, this is from last year's figures, it'd be 81,000 increase for me. Just for me. So you say Nine thousand.
96,000.
I don't,
Well, there's,
you're a little low, I think, you know, but to have a 25% increase, that's a pretty good raise. It's huge.
yeah.
And to say that you're only gonna raise a commercial, well, if costs are going up, why wouldn't you raise everybody?
Yeah, so when we look at our compacted rate, it's the current charge for uncompacted is $12 a yard. The current charge for compacted is $24 a yard. That's a 2-to-1 ratio difference. And we know that the ratio for compaction is much greater than 2-to-1. So we looked at that and said, well, the uncompacted is probably, could be to stay where it's at, but the compacted, has some room there, I think.
Would your uncompacted garbage cost you more when it comes to transporting it to market, because your trailers need to get to weight, so it's the compacted garbage that actually saves you on the other end of it?
Yeah, so we take our waste, we take it all and try to manage it the best we can to make it as affordable as we can to haul it to our current location at the Marquette landfill. The state calculation for compacted waste versus uncompacted is 3.33 to 1, and we're currently less than that. I just think that it's justifiable, but I understand where you're coming from, for sure. It is a big increase compared to where it was at, but I think we've been at 2-to-1 for a long time, and it probably should have been adjusted many
So
years
if we
ago.
have to raise our fees significantly, you're gonna get a lot more self-haulers, which isn't gonna increase your costs out there because you're gonna get busier than you are out there. Because we will lose customers if we have to raise our rates that much.
Sure. And I don't know I know that our waste charge is not your only expense. Obviously, you have, labor and transportation and all of those things. And so, although our 25% increase is a substantial increase, or what's being proposed, it's not been increased yet. But I don't know if you figured out what the percent of our waste charge versus all your other charges, if it's 10% increase or 15% increase in your billing for your customers. I'm not sure what that number would be, but and then to try to counteract potential impacts from increase of self-haulers, that's why we proposed the minimum charge to try to balance that out. It doesn't increase the per yard fee on the minimum charge. Doesn't increase the per yard fee. They could still bring 4 bags, but it may decrease the number of trips that customers have. So the charge for self-haulers is still $12 a yard. They just have a half yard minimum, so up to 4 bags.
So you said you wanted to go with like a minimum fee, right?
Yes, yeah. Well, there was a proposed idea.
Would you do that at the transfer stations too then?
Like the canister sites?
Yep.
Certainly.
The red tickets would go away.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just asked.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, your service is awesome for you. I don't have, personally, that's just me. I think it's unbelievable to be able to get the service that we get for the cost that you provide it for, to be honest with you.
Well, thank you.
And I to be able to do that 4 times a month, or every week, let's say, for $8 basically a week, that's very reasonable in my opinion. Now, there may be lots of people that disagree with me, but I think it's a very reasonable price for a great service. And you never miss a beat. So I think it's. And that's, people do appreciate that. So, hopefully they understand what we're doing. I know we're putting a lot of levy out to continue to support mats, and some of that is transportation for us to haul it somewhere else, right? That really isn't on you guys at all. But that is a cost that's passed along to countywide, basically, for everyone that haul, for everyone. So,
And I understand you gotta raise rates, everything goes up, you know, but 25%, that's a big cut, you know,
Matt, how much did our contracted hauler went up 30%? We just signed that contract here a month ago.
Yeah, I can't recall the exact percentage, but it was substantial increase. We had substantial increases because of fuel cost increases. You know, we have a fuel escalation charge related to transportation, and so as fuel costs go up, our hauling costs go up. So it's a variable amount that it keeps changing, but obviously fuel costs have skyrocketed since 2020, and that's had a huge impact on our, you know, total costs to manage waste. And then other costs have gone up tremendously. I mean, everything has gone up. But you see it in the cost of buying MSW trailers and various other things that we do to manage our waste. And, you know, 2020 pricing or 2018 pricing sure looks like a good deal in comparison today, right?
Well, I think just round the numbers, you know, Matt's department gets about $500,000 supplemented, $250 from the levy and probably another $250 from timber sales. And he's also running a $404,000 deficit into 25. So, you know, the only other way to try to rebalance is to levy the whole county for it or pass it on through user fees. And I think that's the discussion ultimately here is what, for consideration, which way we want to do that.
Right, and you know, this is, you know, a proposed $96,000 increase, but that doesn't cover the total amount that, you know, our budget requires. And you know, the county board is a tough job to try to manage, you know, how do we manage all of these costs associated with providing services to people. You know, I would definitely say that solid waste management is a really important service, and you know, if we're doing a good job, you don't hear anything about it, and if we're not doing a good job, you'll get lots of complaints, right? So if you don't have the resources to be able to manage it the right way, you'll notice that too. So,
please go ahead.
Where would you be if you were, instead of doing an increase on the volume of garbage, as opposed to putting like a fee on each vehicle that comes in? Say a $5 fee, so instead of a $6 minimum, do a $5 fee for every vehicle that comes in, including my truck. I pay $5 for my truck to come, no different than a car coming in bringing garbage. So kind of, I don't know what kind of traffic you have out there. I've heard that you get lots of cars, but that might be a way to cut back on the traffic that's out there too, because that's where your biggest expense as far as operating the transfer station with the manpower and everything.
yeah. So we currently have 3 operators at our transfer station. We have one on the tipping floor, one dealing with recycling, and one at our demolition site, and they rotate through all of those activities, among other things. You know, I think, and we have a permanent part-time that helps with recycling as well. So, I mean, the traffic that we receive in the summer, it's busy, you know, and in the winter it decreases the amount of traffic. But I don't think a minimum charge per car would really do, you know, what we're looking for as far as budgetary items. Then the other thing, it would increase our price for self-haulers, whereas I'm not proposing an increase on self-haulers. The $12 a yard is still maintaining at $12 a yard for uncompacted. It's just that they will need to bring more if they want to maximize the minimum charge. The minimum charge would be a half yard, so bring 4 bags rather than 1 bag at a time, which theoretically may, and again, you know, we'll see how it goes, but how that would counteract, you know, the increase to the commercial haulers and how that impacts traffic. So I think that doing it this way would make sense, and I would but I'm open to all ideas, but I don't know if that idea would work for us. I don't know if that makes sense for us.
I'm not sure how we'd charge it, how we'd bill it.
No, there's another option with the solid waste fee too. I mean, we could split this up too and divvy this out a little bit differently. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have to be all at once either. I don't know. I mean, there's always, you can think about, it doesn't have to be 25% today. It can be something else today and something else the year after, or maybe something today and something in the solid waste fee area too. And I kind of think the solid waste fee area would be a little more fair because to their point, they are hauling it in, and that's a separate service than us hauling it somewhere else. And you know what I mean? So I mean, there might be some consideration there.
Their fees cover their charges to haul it to us.
Right.
We have nothing to do with their
But I also agree. I think that the compacted ratio should be increased. But obviously, we still have those costs beyond that, so it gets there. I think at a fair, reasonable rate right now. I just think that and it's reasonable to get it out of here too. It just costs what it costs. I mean, we have to do it. So there might be a consideration to look elsewhere for some extra funding on the countywide.
Anytime you raise the tipping fees, whether it be on the compacted or even what we're proposing with the $5 or $6 minimum, you run into the issues of illegal dumping and people finding open dumpsters and all this kind of thing. So there are additional costs that we're going to have to look at because there's additional cleanup that we'll have to do for waste that now we collect no tipping fee for. So that, I don't know if it's significant, probably not in the grand scheme of things, but it's just something to take into consideration that, not all of what we're proposing as additional revenue is going to be additional revenue because there will be significant additional costs too.
Yeah, and it's, it's just to be fair, I mean, and think outside the box. So, I mean, and I hear your concerns, but I really still think for what I shouldn't say it out loud, but gosh, for what you charge for what we get, it's unbelievable, an unbelievable deal for us, really. So for the consumer, it's very reasonable in my opinion. So not that I'd be willing to pay a whole lot more. I would. I think I personally think, I mean, if for up to me, I can't haul it for what you pick it up for. I just can't. And for the hassle, annual, weekly, year round. There's no way you could do it. I don't think, unless I was a one bag a month person or something maybe. But even still, it's nice to have that there if you need it too. So mine is usually full, so I almost always need it.
They do a great job. I have friends as a service as well, and the only time that I have any struggle is I don't beat them to the end of my driveway. They get there before me. Last week that occurred to me, and I had a stinky load. So. But back to your point related to $8 a week or whatever the amount is that they charge. When I look at that, and if it went from $8 to $10 a week, for me personally, it wouldn't affect me. I would still have their service, but of course everybody has a different situation, so I have to be respectful of that. So
definitely not. Because I know you have to do what you have to do as well too. If this happens, obviously there's going to have to be something, and that's not the intention here. The intention is to help try to cover some of our increases as well. I mean, we have these fuel increases and things that are tremendous, and there's no end in sight, honestly. Everything usually continues to increase. So, but we don't want people throwing stuff off the side of the roads either. And I think those days, I shouldn't say they're gone, but I think for the most part, it's changed a lot over the course of time with education and reasonable fees and things like this here, and opportunities, to even legally go get rid of your recycling, things like this here. I think that's helped a lot too over the course of time. I remember when there was stuff laying in the ditches when I was a kid, and the old dump and stuff, and if the gate wasn't open, you just throw it in the ditch, and you did find tires and TVs and everything laying everywhere. So there's a lot better programs and better ways to get rid of it now too. So
one comment I will make on the minimum charge, it will impact those with lower volumes more. Right? So they'll have to do some different managing of their waste related to either holding garbage for a longer period of time if they don't want to pay the minimum charge and want to actually wait till they have 4 bags, so they may have to manage that. But the idea of the minimum charge is to try to counteract the effects of that commercial or that compacted rate increase. So anyways, I just wanted to make that comment that, those lower volume customers are impacted by a minimum charge.
Thoughts? We can hold too. We don't have to have a decision today. We have,
Well, in order to increase
Or do we?
rates for 2025, the decision has to be made today.
Oh, it has to be made today.
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. If you want, you were talking about the 2025 budget, you wanted us to look at it, so this is the day that it has to occur.
This is worked into your budget already?
No, it is not.
Okay.
No, I did not include it, so if this was adjusted today, there would be an adjustment to our budget related to revenue.
Well, I can't make a motion or anything to move forward or not move forward, so what's your thoughts here?
Instead of going $6, could a person go $3?
You could go with a $3 minimum charge. It'd be a 2 bags. So minimum charge of 2 bags, or
I'm talking $6 an increased yard for weight. Instead of going 6, go 3. Split it in half.
so I propose. I never figured out the proposed increase in revenue, but if you went from $30 to $28, which is a 17% increase rather than a 25% increase, it would have an increase in revenue in our department of $64,000. So if you went from 30 to 28. Now keep in mind that, again, the state compaction rate that they use for calculating uncompacted compared to compacted is 3.33. Our current uncompacted charge is $12. We're not anywhere. We're not at 3.33. Ratio. But yes, that would be the difference. So from $30 would generate 96,000 plus or minus, and $28 increase would be 64,000 increase in revenue.
What's just the ratio change? What's that rate?
I'd have to do the math, but you can do the math. 2 to 1 is 24. So the ratio would get a lot closer at $30 a yard. Now you got to remember that the haulers pay their solid waste tax, whereas on our coupon sales we pay the solid waste tax that's included in the $12 a yard charge. So it's not a straight just 3.33 times 12. There's a bit of adjustment there.
And that's a green ticket?
A yard is a red 1 yard coupon.
We'd be eliminating the red tickets under this bill.
If we went to $30, and possibly even if we went to 28, I guess we could adjust those, maybe do 8 tabs. Could be 2
It
bags.
wouldn't fit into our current program. We'd have to redesign something. And that's what, this is, our existing tickets would work. There'd be no additional cost to redesign anything or
Right. We wouldn't have
change
to.
anything.
Yeah, we wouldn't have to recall all of our tickets and then reprint based on the new rates. If we
Just keep
adjust
it-
it to $30 a yard, we can use this.
Keep the self-haulers at 30. Don't change them. Keep them the same.
So
We
Then you
are,
don't- then you don't adjust those at all.
we'd still have a minimum charge, is what we're proposing. So we'd eliminate.
the red tickets would be eliminated.
Yeah.
Right now, we're charging, you can do a 1 bag ticket, which is $1.50. You figure out the value, per square foot of our facility. Their staff and keeping the lights on, you don't come out collecting $1.50 for the space and time that they're taking up in our facility. So I'm in agreement with the minimum. I think that's a good idea.
Can we keep the minimum as it is and change the rate, hauler rate, or would that not be an option?
I don't understand the question, I'm sorry.
Does it have to be all in one? This is a package?
No, you guys can do, it's whatever you decide. It's the choice of the board to set the rates. If you want to make a minimum charge of $3 rather than $6, I mean, it certainly could do that. If you want to adjust the compacted rate, from 30 to 36 or 30 to 28, you can do, it's whatever you guys decide. But keep in mind, budgets are the concern here. We're trying to figure out how we manage the budgets, and the area on the compacted rate, it's needed to be adjusted for a long time. It just hasn't been done. I mean, we've been at a much lower ratio for many, many years, and there was reasons why they had that for years ago when they first were establishing these types of fees. There was adjustments that had to be made by the commercial haulers, and they adjusted, and it cost them money to, and it impacted their customers, and so it was a big change at that time. Today we have a system that's been in place for many years, and I truly believe it's time to look at the commercial rate and get it closer to that 3.33 to 1 ratio. And that's why I'm proposing it this way. But again, it's up to you as board members to make that decision as to what those rates should be, and we will manage it the way you please.
So if we keep our minimum for bags for uncompacted, if we do the $6 raise, $6 minimum,
okay,
and instead of going from 24 to 30 for compacted, what would happen if we went from 24 to, let's say, 27?
Yeah, it's whatever.
Like right in half.
Yeah.
That way they're still going to have to give their customers a bump in charge.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to be a killer all at the same time.
25% or something.
Yeah. It'd be something, I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to ask Jason, the $8, is that current, or is that with the 25% raise?
For the bags?
Yeah, you said you're
The bags?
$8 a week is what you're
What is it
currently
costing
paying.
you?
Oh, I think it's like $31 a month or something. I
For
think.
these
I gotta
guys to come and pick it up.
So that's current.
Yeah.
That's correct, yeah.
And you guys would probably have to jump it, if we did that, what would you guys have to jump it per household for a month? 38, 39, 40?
We would have to figure it out.
What's the timeline on this, Matt? Is it at the beginning of the year?
2025, the rates for 2025, yep. And this was a discussion we had when we were talking about budgets, how do we manage it? You guys have struggles related to tax increases, right? So this was, trying to come up with a different option for you, and
Well, I think the user fee is separate from the hauling it away part of it, I think, too. That's not their responsibility to haul it somewhere else. That's the county's responsibility. So I would be more in favor of an increased solid waste that goes the areas applicable to our, to wherever this stuff is going. So, I mean, I would be
You're looking at more of the service fee end of it then?
Well, that wouldn't be maybe even a service fee. It would be just a solid waste fee. And it'd be a solid waste fee that would be, residential be one, commercial be one, whatever it is, and then just, because it's really not, when you think about it, it really isn't their fault that
Our cost went up so.
that our costs went up so much. I mean, I agree with you on compacted rate, and I think we need to get somewhere with it too, but maybe over the course of a few years, not just all at once, perhaps. So, I mean, just to, because these costs do continue to increase, but at the same time, I think getting rid of, getting from our facility to wherever it's going to go, that's really more of a county-borne cost. That's part of our, requirement to do that. So, and we are levying for a good majority of that, I think, and as it is now with the staff and the building and the, like you say, the equipment and all the time and effort too. So, and that's just my thought. That could be anybody else's, Yes, please.
And I know he talks about the compaction rate of 3 to 1, and I understand all that. But to get the cost the same of 3 to 1 as what an uncompacted, that's not really fair, because the compacted garbage costs the county less. Because if I brought in all uncompacted garbage, the amount of garbage I brought, it would take you 4 times more trailers to get it to market. Because my compacted garbage is what gets that trailer to weight to make it worth it to transfer it over. So to say that it's fair to get compacted waste at the same cost as uncompacted waste isn't fair, because there's a big advantage to having compacted waste coming in. I just wanted to point that out so that the rates don't go from 3 to 1 and it stay as the same rate as the uncompacted, because that's where your cost would come in. If you had all uncompacted garbage, your trailers would weigh
Nothing.
really light going to market.
I'm gonna argue that point, because the only time we really struggle getting trailers up, and even like on a Saturday when we have almost all privates in there, you know, we do get one of your trucks on Saturday, but most of the time it's, you know, like the volume by volume is probably 80% privates.
And that trailer's at weight?
And that trailer is at weight, yes. The only time we can't even come close is in the winter. You know, but then you guys are late in the winter
Right.
too. So.
In the wintertime, garbage does get lighter, yes.
So-
There's advantages
But
to
there-
have compacted waste. I mean,
absolutely.
there's advantages to that, but we consider all the waste as part of the process. It wouldn't be cost effective for them to bring us uncompacted waste, because they have to
Well, I
make so
thought
many.
about it just to prove a
Yeah,
point.
but there would be so much extra cost for transportation for them to make that many loads. It wouldn't make any sense.
And you look
Yeah.
at the time we spend to process that waste. Though.
Right.
When yours goes into the trailer, it's all done deal. The amount of time we got people sitting on the loader packing and crushing stuff and trying to keep
Right, so when you have
manage
private-
the load.
Yes,
it's,
when you have
it's
uncompacted-
significant cost for us too. So
Right,
I'm
because you're
gonna throw that in
squishing
there.
it down, trying to get more in the
Right,
trailer.
you gotta keep
because it's
packing
not
as it
compact.
comes in, so there's a lot of cost
But that's where I'm saying
Yeah.
uncompacted garbage. I mean, my trucks go in, we're dumped in 5 minutes, we're out of there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, in the current system, and, you know, I think all of the waste is, their compacted waste is important to us. It's important service they provide, they do a great job. I think that we have a good working relationship, you know, and we work out, you know, any struggles that we have from time to time, you know, I think it all works out. But, you know, we're talking about a budgetary item of trying to manage, you know, how do we manage costs? It's either taxes, service fees, which people consider as taxes, and, I'm sorry, the solid waste service fee I was referring to, that people consider as taxes because we either bill or place it on the tax statement, or increase in fees. And, you know, if we went to, you know, anything can be done. It's just a matter of how you manage the cost and how you collect income to pay for it. So.
Just one point, in looking at Matt's 2025 budget, the solid waste department within his department, it has a $354,000 deficit. So just that service alone requires subsidy of $354,000. So that's really what he's talking about, is how do we balance that? You know, he's running a $404,000 for all the different, you know, planning and zoning, and that doesn't, you know, administration, all those areas. So the biggest deficit he runs is managing solid waste at $354,000. So that's the balance that is before you today, is how do we not get that number to continue to grow, but, you know, decrease.
Past history and previous boards, I guess, have always looked at our solid waste operation as more of a community service than, you know, profit-making industry. It's never made a profit. It's always had to be subsidized by general fund, because you cannot collect enough tipping fees and solid waste service fees to fund this operation, because you would price it out of the means of many people in our community. And that's something we were very adamant about, trying to keep the costs affordable for anybody. The lowest paid person in our community should still be able to use the facility. So this is how we've always tried to scale our fees. So.
And that's why we're not proposing an increase in our uncompacted waste rate, is, you know, taking into account those people that feel like they have to self-haul, and we're not proposing an increase in their fees. Minimum charge for those that have low volumes will impact them, but maybe they can manage that, you know, making less trips, but,
So to make it $3, you'd have to print all new tickets and all
no,
that.
so $3, if we went to a minimum charge of $3, that'd be a 2 bags minimum, 2 bag or an 1/8 yard minimum. And
You're
we
talking
could-
commercial, aren't you, Adam?
No,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No,
No,
the
the
self-haulers.
self-haulers, yeah. The
Instead of
uncompacted.
$1.50, if it's $3.
Yeah, that'd be 2 bags,
So it's
233
no
gallon
different,
bags.
no different than what it is now, though.
No, so, well, the price is the same.
Yeah.
Even at $6, it's the same price. It's just a different amount of volume minimum.
Just the minimum, so if you
Yeah.
bring one, you get charged for 3.
And the whole option of that was trying to reduce traffic.
Well, in trying to offset potential traffic concerns, if you're increasing the compacted rate, increasing the minimum charge is trying to offset some of those concerns that they would have about customers maybe choosing to self-haul rather than have their service. And that's the idea behind the minimum charge, to manage that. So there'd still be self-haulers, and there still would be people that keep the commercial service. And I, for one, wouldn't change my service. I would continue with my service. But again, you know, until you change the fees, you don't really know how it's going to shake out.
Either way, the lowest paid population in our county, whether they're paying for their service or they're hauling it to us, it's going to affect them, especially like with the increases they're gonna have to implement. There's gonna be people that, you know, can't afford it.
But I mean, we still have increases in taxes or increases in other, I mean, somehow you know, the cost associated with managing solid waste has to be paid. So there's going to be an increase somewhere to be able to pay for the cost to manage it. And our costs to manage solid waste are much more expensive than those areas in more populated areas that are closer to landfills. I mean, we're one way, it's 180 miles to the landfill we all to. And we're looking at options for that when our contract comes up in 2025. But you know, at this point, at the end of 2025. And we'll present those options to the board at that, you know, once we have them worked out, and then there'll be a decision as to what direction we go there. But, you know, prices are not going down, I can tell you that. Our costs continue to go up. And so this was a proposal to try to manage that and try to give you an option. So that's what you guys got to decide today.
So, what we'd like to do? Heard a couple different avenues, a couple different options.
And then one where $30 is a $30 increase in the compacted rate is a 25%. $28 is 17% increase. I didn't calculate 27. I'm sorry. I didn't go down $1 every.
Well, that'd be 12 and a half.
Yeah, or something. Yeah, but I prefer to bring it up as high as you guys can feel the support for it.
I don't know that the difference from 28 to 30 is really significant. But what I would say, what is significant is we need that service. The county needs that service. And just how do we get there? Hopefully we're seeing we're trying to catch up from this, the COVID and the after COVID and the wild prices that we've seen. Hopefully they're leveled off. In some cases they've come back. I think the important thing is to make sure that that service stays intact.
Proposals, thoughts?
So if we did 27 this time, and then knowing that a couple of years from now it'll get to 30, that little.
That makes more sense on our end.
Yeah.
Slowly.
And then do the non-compacted as a minimum of $6. That way there we saved all of our tickets that we have. We don't have to do new tickets. Saves
We
us
don't-
money and
I still think 12 is real reasonable though, or I mean, the proposed of 24, that's still less than the actual hall fee. You know
And
what
all
I
of
mean?
this is-
We're below that right now, we're at the 24 even.
All of this is going to be up in the air again next year at this time with the contract coming to an end, so
yep.
it could all be changed again, the structure. Hopefully it goes a different direction.
Yeah.
I would love that.
So,
We're trying.
so Commissioner McIntyre, you had 27 as a proposal, Commissioner Roach, you had 3 and
I had 27, same thing.
27, and,
$6 minimum charge for
6, yeah.
non-compacted.
okay. Would be willing to put that into a motion.
I'd be willing to put that into a motion, yes.
Okay.
$27 for compacted, $6 minimum charge for non-compacted.
Okay.
I'll second.
So it's 6. I wrote that down a long time ago, I had a feeling.
$6 and half yard or 4 bags, if you could include that in the motion, just kind of encompass the volume, because that's really
Yeah.
the key.
Yep. Yep. That's a minimum for like 4 bags.
4 bags, or a half yard.
Yep.
Okay.
And we have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Anything else? Wait. Well, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Glad you could be part of the conversation and stuff. So I know you're all busy and all that too. So
Hopefully if we can get it cheaper somewhere else, maybe we can work on that rate for next year, or
Hopefully.
we can find some place to get rid of it closer, or
yeah, it's quite an equation. It's ever moving. You know, it's the way it is. But I really do appreciate
I
it.
understand the prices got so up. That's life, but.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being
Well,
here.
thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, you guys have a good day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Right. No other discussion. I will call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Now we have our addition,
Canister?
which is at Loman.
Yeah, the Loman,
I lost it here.
you know, we received notice from Dave Kramer, who's the Loman waste canister site attendant, that he will no longer be able to service the Loman waste canister contract due to health issues. Dave has worked at the site for approximately 6 years. We unfortunately must accept his resignation. Dave has provided excellent service, and I would like to share my appreciation for his work over the years serving customers that use the Loman site. Providing waste disposal options at our canister sites in the rural areas of the county is a very important service. We advertise for bids to provide the services for the remainder of the contract period of September 27th, 2024 through November 30th, 26. And we received one bid from Robert Schmidbauer in the amount of $650 per month plus $700 annual payment for a total annual cost of $8,500. Our previous contract annual cost was $6,100, so considering increases in costs, I don't think it's unreasonable. And I would recommend accepting this bid and authorize us to enter into an agreement with Robert Schmidbauer for the Loman Canister Site attendant contract.
I see you have a appreciation note. for-
Yes, yeah, if I could have the board chair's signature on it, I've got a hard copy that you could sign to send to Dave Kramer for his appreciating his work.
Well, it is very important that somebody steps up and does this, you know, to serve those areas of the county that are hard to get to and,
Yes.
you know, have a rural, very rural access. So really do appreciate, you know, Dave's commitment, and then obviously the next person, Rob, is that, you know, wanted to step up and take care of it too. So I understand there's increases to that. I think we've seen that across the board on our other canister sites where it's been increased, you know, in the Little Fork area there, I think went up a little bit. And I think that's just the nature of the doing business part of it. So, but really do appreciate Dave's commitment. thanks for getting it together so quickly too. So.
Yeah, Wayne's been helping me a lot on a lot of things I've had. I'm running a lot, so good thing we have Wayne.
Thank you, Wayne. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wishes of the board. And this is going to be to accept the resignation of the current site administrator and or attendant to, and also approve the new attendant along with the contract of $8,500.
No second.
Thank you, Commissioner Erickson. Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? And the motion carries. Thank you.
That's it, eh?
Thank you.
Yeah.
It is. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.
See you later.
Thank you.
See you in a little bit. Okay, at this time, we are open for public comment. Anybody in person or online for public comment?
Go ahead, Bob. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm here anyway.
You want me to wait for Adam to make sure he states his name?
Nope, nope, come on up. Well, yeah, we'll take a second here for Adam, I guess, here, so. You want to state your name and address and that stuff for us, please?
I'm Bobby.
We know who you are, but.
I'm Bobby Wall, live at 3961 Highway 332, International Falls, Minnesota. I heard recently that the airport, or the city wants to annex the rest of the airport. I don't know if that's true or not, but I guess I'm opposed to that. And also, I guess I'd like maybe the county board to make a motion opposing any further annexation of the airport property by the city, so it's on the record there. It seems like this comes up every once in a while. And I don't quite understand, but the city does what the city wants, pretty much.
Mr. Roach, I know you guys are on that there. I know we've had some discussion here. There is a encompassing area of the property, of the jointly owned property, that is being looked at, and the legal descriptions are being kind of vetted and stuff. There's a couple that aren't quite right here and there, and then that is their request is to have those parcels annexed into the city. Yes. Yep. So and there's concerns, and I know you have concerns and have had concerns in the past too. I know that those, even with not being here, I know that's been a topic for you. So, and I don't know that we can do an oppositional type of deal. I think it would have to be a request, and there's options also for them to continue the request. They can do an uncontested annexation or a contested annexation. A contested then would go through a whole different process. Uncontested would be we sign off on an agreement to that, or if there's something, some other arrangement too, that could be there as well. That might be a consideration. I mean, I don't know how we're just kind of having discussions at a committee level, from a steering committee level on those deals, and in that steering committee, I think it got kicked back to the Airport Commission to vet those properties that are Airport Commission properties that are jointly administered by the county and the city. So I think it's going back to their attorney to get the legal descriptions arranged, and so everybody's on the same page with that before that can actually move forward. And then from there, then it would be a consideration of this board as a request from the city to annex those properties. So yeah, there is discussion of that, you're correct, and it's ongoing. I don't know what the timeline for getting those properties figured out. I don't think it'll be terribly long, and then it would be our business here to look at their request at least, and make a decision. So that would be coming here in the not too far away future, I got a feeling. So.
And your committee's already set, I gather, that's working on that? Or?
Yeah, we've had a few meetings. just a few. We've gotten to that point to where we've made some agreements and stuff, and there's other things too, not just the annexation that we're discussing in those meetings. So that is a point of discussion in that steering committee. There's other points of discussion too that are irrelevant to annexation. Really, they're not really part of the annexation part of it. So just some of the administration side of the airport and things like that. So
Because I have a property abutting the airport, and I see no benefit to anybody to have the city annex the rest of it, I guess. I know the city says they'll benefits to them, but
it's some of the property there is undevelopable.
yeah.
You can't develop on it either way, no matter who does what with it. You can't develop. You can't build on it. You can have it pasture. You can farm it. You can pasture it. You can't have any dwellings on or near it. I know that for a fact. So some of those issues are questionable, I guess. There are some areas there that are not going to be impacted, that are potentially could be annexed. Some of the developable properties, which would be, I think everyone would be more amicable with that. The undeveloped properties, I really see no sense or desire in that area at all. I mean, because they're undevelopable. If you can't develop them, what good is it anyway? So I agree with that point. So and then some of it's contiguous too, which means the annexation, if it's a contiguous area, then it can be continued. So if it's branches out into that area, then it could be continued on or across or whatever. It can't be just a spot over here and a spot over there. It has to be continuous or contiguous, I guess is the word that I don't fully understand. But it just has to be adjacent to and connected to an existing city limit area.
Yeah.
So that's what that is basically. So that may be some of it as well. Maybe some development perhaps that we're not aware of. I haven't heard of anything other than just scuttlebutt. But maybe there's something there. That would be a question too, I guess, for
keep abreast with Mr. Roach and see what's going on.
Because you're on the other side of the truck route, right?
No, he's right on he'd be on the
332.
southeast corner or southeast side towards the truck road. He's on the airport side of the truck road.
Okay.
Yeah,
Him and his
on the
brother.
north side of the truck road.
Okay. I thought your property was on the other side.
No, that's his brother.
Okay.
No, mine's on the north. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, I see you're getting a lot of requests for variance, and some of them, the one I seen last time that interested me, they wanted a variance from the road setback. And I don't know, those setbacks have been set up for a long time and they're for a good reason. And I don't know why you would change that. There's one guy wanted to build a bigger garage or something. Well, I think your setbacks are 25 or 50 feet now.
It just depends on the type of lot it is.
Anyway, he wanted to go to 10 feet.
I've seen that.
And if you're plowing or something, what if you damage his garage? I mean, are you guys giving them guys variance? I thought a variance was for a need, not just because you want a bigger garage.
Yeah, it's the exception. We have a separate variance board for that too. This board has nothing to do with the variance. They actually have a committee or a board of adjustment it's called. And you may, like you said, that's what you're talking about. I've seen that one you're talking about too. Some of the areas I can see where it's necessary. When you're given a setback from an ordinary high water level area or something like that, when you're 40 feet above the water, you're not going to flood. You know what I mean? So I can see a variance like that. So I agree with the process. However, we've had a situation too where it was a little bit different than a county road setback or something like that. This was more of a private thing, so really isn't relevant. But to your point, it is relevant because when they are plowing, there's an issue or could be an issue with damage, to a property or something like that when you're plowing. So, but the board of adjustment is supposed to look at all that. Matt and Whitney kind of take care of all that too, and that would be probably, and I don't know if you know Mr. Lemio, Mike. I think he's the chair of the board of adjustment.
Yeah.
And then they have a group too. But I mean, I see the point of some of it because some of it is. Some of the lots where these are happening are pretty tight lots, and some of them are split lots where there's a road in the middle of the lot, so they have a lot over here and a lot over there, and I think that's where this variance of this garage is at, where instead of high-speed road, there's lots of houses, you know, house, you might say. But I mean, I understand that. I understand your concerns too. If these are not supposed to be close, but at the same time, you want development too. I think to a certain extent, as long as it's safe. But I agree too. I mean, these are set up for a reason, and what I disagree with, and you know, Commissioner Erickson, he might disagree with me, but when you have a 20-foot setback on a 240-acre field where you build a pole barn and you build within 5 feet of the property line, you have all the property in the world. You can make that property. You can go 20 feet out to bring your tractor, and you can whatever have your agriculture around the building. You can do that. To me, that's what I would do. It's like, well, why would you want to mow 5 feet? I'd rather mow 20 feet and be able to harvest it. But I seen a variance that was that. It was within 5 feet, but it was an after the fact variance too, which is even a little more irritating. It's like, well, after the fact, I understand people want to do what they want to do on the property, but, you know, if there's a 20-foot variance in setback, then at least, you know, to me, it makes sense to have that reason. Out in the middle of nowhere, does it matter? No, probably not. So, I mean, so the variance goes through and it's not a big deal, you know, but.
I agree with Mr. Ewald. Right-of-ways are there for a reason. And I mean, because I've seen, of course, we're rural, seen instances where people think they own the right-of-way and they don't want this and that, but they're there for a reason. When I built my fences, I made sure I knew where the right-of-way was, and I put it off the right-of-way. Lots of usable ground between me and the road, but I don't want to move that fence. And that's a reason. There's a reason for them setbacks or the right-of-ways.
Well,
They have to be pretty exceptional to.
They've been thought out pretty well in a long time, and it seems like people are getting variances for everything now. I mean, why have rules if you're just going to let them build anywhere, anytime, whatever? But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh, that's been noticed, and it's been noticed more with the more development, the more building. I've noticed it even, and I've seen these notices come through, and I look at them all, maybe even go out and look at a couple of them that have already happened or are going to happen, and there are some concerns there, and I shouldn't say we can't do anything. We could, I guess, if it was a really egregious thing. I think we do have some latitude there, but I think it has to be quite egregious in order to be able to step in and say, oh, wait a second here, it's got to be a safety concern or something. If it's a safety concern, well, then we can say, no, we think that this is not right, and we can then kind of, you know.
Well, even after the variance board, you guys have final approval on them.
No.
You don't?
No.
I thought they had to come to the board here.
No.
Well,
On the planning and zoning now, when there's a zoning change or a land use change or something like that, that does come to this board here. Goes to the planning and zoning, gets a recommendation, approval there, and then it goes to this board to get approved. The variance does not. I hear you. I disagree with it, because you could kind of thwart some of these problems ahead of time if there was another set of eyes looking at them, but they do go through the process of that board, and it's a volunteer board. Just local citizens try to pick from different areas to cover the county, but yeah, I'm working on that too. I'm looking into that. I as of the last few months actually. So there's been some variances that we've had discussion about and issues with actually, and no fault of the variance committee, but you know, if there was maybe a different way of looking at it, or a safety that was thrown into that, or different information that's given that doesn't need to be there, you know, all those things play into how you make a decision. At least I do. And if you have more information, maybe even information that you don't need, you're gonna skew your decision a little bit too. So some of those concerns were brought up by myself and voiced to Matt, and we may have to look into it a little bit further too. So, but,
Okay, that's all I got to say.
Well, thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
Further public comment, come on up.
Jeff Wickstrom. You said you need an address. My home address is 2007 8th Avenue West, but the address that I'm here with concern about is 2821 Town Road 273. Whole 10-page presentation that takes about 10 minutes if you want it, or a conversation after. I've had multiple conversations. So
you say 2821 Town Road 273?
273.
Okay.
It's an island that I own in Sand Bay. Oh, he left already, right across from Bob.
Oh, okay.
So it's 100 feet from mainland type of thing.
What do you got?
I've been in the construction industry for 30 years. I've been a real estate agent. I started a construction program at the college. I've done various things to help the county. I've fixed 40 houses for myself. I've fixed various houses for other people being a contractor. I've done a lot of help, I would say, in Koochiching County to help maintain that your properties have great tax value for tax purposes as well as aesthetics. I ran into some troubles trying to repair my island. And this started about 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm jumping all over on this, so I'll just set that aside for a second. My girlfriend and her family came up to the island, and knowing that there was going to need to be repairs on the main cabin, we cleaned it up the best we could. Everybody came up for the weekend, and we had a little, about 8-year-old granddaughter get really sick. And at that point then, I started digging into the main cabin and started finding mold issues and all kinds of things, and had a conversation with, I'm going to try and stay away from names, the Koochiching County official at that point, that, hey, I've got an issue, I would like to try and repair my building, I'd like to try and fix my building. And immediately, back in 2021, it was, you're going to have to get a permit, you're going to have to do this, we're going to possibly have to make you hook up to the mainland sewer, and it was just a very negative conversation. So I started doing some research on your paperwork that you have for the county, and what I found was language that said that I have the right to maintain my building without having to go through the permit process, which I'll discuss the permit process in a couple seconds too. So I started focusing on trying to maintain it, tear apart interior walls, whatever the finishes were, try and fix what I could. Well, that was 2021, and I got a little bit done, and then 2022 occurred. 2022 was a flood year. Then I changed my focus into trying to save as many of my buildings as I possibly could with weight, etc. Well, that didn't happen. Mother Nature won, destroyed my boathouse, destroyed my docks, destroyed everything. I was under the understanding I had exactly 1 year to be able to repair all this if I wanted to keep everything the way it was. So 2023 I spent repairing all of that damage instead of focusing on this main cabin. And then we come to winter of 23-24, we started tearing it apart more and discovered more and more damage, and I've got tons of photos and information and stuff that I can hand out. I've got enough documentation for everybody. I tried to get up there this spring. This spring it was wet again, waters were rising, things were going on. I didn't get up there until probably July to start working on this. In July and August, myself and my girlfriend and other people helping me, we just kept tearing it apart till we got down to just a bare shell, which I have pictures of. And at that point, it was determined that the only thing that was really salvageable was most of the floor. The walls were bad, the roof was bad, it needed just save the floor, repair the floor, put new walls up on the existing structure, the existing footprint. The use of the land is not changing. In late August, first part of September, I was informed that Matt and the DNR gentleman wanted to come up and look at what I was doing. So on September 9th, Matt and Mr. Reed requested that I pick them up at the landing, even though I was told by various people that they should get their own ride. I still picked them up, trying to be cordial and trying to make this as positive as possible. First conversation was with the DNR official, talking about the beach house that got destroyed. Very professional conversation. We were going through measurements, checking everything out. In the middle of the conversation, Matt came and started to interject that this wasn't there, that wasn't like that. And I very quickly tried to correct the situation and state that I had photos, I had documentation, I can show brackets where things were. I believe that that went fairly well with the DNR official, and then my conversation switched over with Matt, and immediately I was told that my shed that has been in existence up there since 2002, there's been a shed on the property. That shed, flood of 2002 got damaged, so I rebuilt a new shed in 2004 after the flood was done and I cleaned things up, and I'm now being informed that that shed potentially has to be torn down because I did not get a permit. Again, I'll talk about the permit concept in a few minutes. We proceeded up to go walk up to the cabin, and the conversations kept going on about permit and permit, so I finally stopped the conversation and I said, from my understanding, from me talking with the licensed building official from the state of Minnesota, Koochiching County has not adopted the building code. Koochiching County does not have the right to issue building permits. Koochiching County issues land use permits. So from my research and my conversations with the building official, I then was informed that I should probably talk to a commissioner, had a conversation with the commissioner. I still, after the conversation with the building inspector, with the commissioner, I felt that I was within my rights to just replace the existing footprint exactly the way it was, that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was repairing floor. I was hoping to start putting up new walls in place of the bad walls. And at the end of our conversation, after we were walking around and looking at things, a comment was made that because I'm within 300 feet of the mainland sewer, there is a potential that I could be forced to hook up to the mainland sewer even. It's a summer use cabin. I've had it for 22 years. Out of those 22 years, about 7 of those years have not been usable due to flood and or me going through a divorce and etc. During my divorce, they did offer to hook the mainland sewer up for a decent price. I couldn't do it because my lawyer informed me that I can't do anything like that during a divorce. Now the price is astronomical. In 22 years, I've probably I've been up there maybe 150 days total, not even a half a year. What I am here requesting and trying to figure out is, do I need to go in front of a variance board like he was just saying, or where am I at? Am I okay to be able to use my land the way that it's always been used for a land use permit, the way that Koochiching County can issue permits, not a building permit? And my shed that's existing, that's been there since 2002, that I have documentation and pictures, can I leave my shed alone? And do I need to do anything with my sewer if I'm using the property exactly the way it's been used? It's 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, nothing's changing, no use is changing, all I'm doing is putting up new walls and a roof.
What do you have for sewer now?
There's a mound that was built prior to me being there. There is one piece of this puzzle that Glenn Thompson, the guy I bought it from, it was a trailer house down the middle and he had built additions off of both sides. He did finish the addition on this side. All he did on this side was build the concrete and the floor. When I first bought the property, the floor was pretty deteriorated because he hadn't covered it very well, so I had replaced the floor and covered it and saved it, and I would like to include that on there. So that's where we talked that I might need a variance or something to be able to use the existing floor that's been there for 22 years.
Did you get a permit initially?
For what part of this? That's...
Well, for anything, for redoing anything, did you?
But I'm not changing the use, so the way I'm reading it, I'm confused that I don't necessarily need a permit if I'm not changing the use of the land. A land use permit is if I'm putting up a new structure, I'm adding on, or I'm doing something different. When you talk permit, then if you're talking building permit, Koochiching County hasn't adopted the building code, so do I need a building permit with the language to be able to build walls and a roof on an existing floor? I'm saving the floor. I've had to do a few repairs, and like I said, I have tons of pictures and photos and drawings of what I'm going to do if you want to see anything. I'm not changing the use. It's exactly the same floor that I'm trying to build on. So that's the confusion. And I've asked Matt to try and give me something in black and white, but I'm trying to move this process along quicker. I'm 57, I want this done, and I was hoping to be doing some more this fall, but I'm losing time.
Well, sure, I'd say just go ahead, but no, it's, no, I guess I'm gonna have to talk to Matt and see, there's requirements that we may have, and I don't recall what they were, because I was gonna do a similar thing, and I'm probably too close to without a variance, I'm probably too close to the ordinary high water level. However, I would never flood because it's, like I told you, it's however many feet off from the water. I mean, the actual elevation of the floor is 6 feet from the last flood that we had, you know what I mean?
It's a little 1.4 acre island. I won't meet setbacks if I have to change anything. It's built with the last flood that we just had in the downstairs portion where there's basically just a water pump to draw water from the lake.
Right.
It got 12 to 16 inches of water in that. But it's a brick solid foundation that they built underneath this trailer house they brought up there. So the building itself is nowhere near an issue for
And what
flooding.
was the DNR there for?
The boathouse that I rebuilt that was existing, that I rebuilt exactly the way it was, and I was under the understanding that I had 1 year. I come to find out after a conversation with him that even with me building it back in 1 year like I was told I was supposed to, or I had heard I was supposed to, there's still a permit process that I have to work with him through, so we're working on that. I'm waiting to hear back from him now. Because that building is actually over the water, so that then involves the DNR more than it does.
Okay, yeah, I understand that.
And I didn't, that was my bad, I did not know that, and I moved it up 10 inches, and he told me I could move it up 12, so that was by accident that I did within his parameters that I was able to do that. I was trying to make it a little bit more flood resistant.
Right, yeah. Yeah, they're pretty picky on that stuff, so. But they're allowable too, as long as you work with them. I think they work with, with the
It was a very
property
good
owners.
conversation. I feel that one's moving forward. I didn't feel this one's moving forward, and I keep feeling like I'm not getting anywhere with this conversation. And after conversations with the commissioner, I felt that it was best if I just came here to explain my situation so that I can try and get this moving forward.
Well, do you have any information that you can leave with us?
I can leave. I have 6 copies of photos and everything and whatever, and I've even got it in the back. A couple of projects I did in International Falls that probably should have been tear down, and I turned an $8,500 house into a $200,000 sale, and I'm not a fly-by-nighter. I've been doing this forever, and I'm just trying to do it right.
Oh, I know. I'd seen you did a really good job there on 15th Street.
That's one of them. That was an $8,500 should have been a tear down.
And that was a pretty sketchy house.
The only thing I saved on that one was the roof.
I have to believe it.
So the opposite. I saved
I
the
hate
floor
to say
this
that.
time. That time I saved the roof. There's 6 copies. You can each take 1 copy if you want. There's information about the building code for sheds. In the state of Minnesota, there is no permit needed for a building of a shed that's 200 square feet or less. And way back when I redid this in the mid-2000s, it was 6 copies. It was actually 100 square feet was the code, and then they've changed that in the last 5 or 10 years, and they've upped it to 200 square feet now. So to be told that I need a permit for a shed confuses me again, because I've never needed a permit for 50 sheds I've built in International Falls, so I just need clarity on what I can and can't do is what I'm trying to get. And that's what the cabin currently looks like. It's an old trailer house. And if you go to the sheet that has the blue circles on the 2002 pictures of my shed, and you go towards the back, you can see my design on, keep going, it'll be towards the back. I've got design of paperwork of what I plan on doing with the new building to try and make it, it's sketch drawings of what it's gonna look like on the footprint. Nothing changes, it's the exact same footprint. I even tried to highlight the size of the footprint and mark out in red that existing foundation that I would like to use. And then there was a covered porch area that has a roof over it. So I tried to be as thorough as I could and give you as much information as I possibly could.
You're getting rid of a trailer house roof and going to a more modern roof,
I'm
basically.
getting rid of the trailer house walls and roof and building 2
On
by
the
4
trailer house frame.
On the trailer house frame, leaving the trailer house frame and floor. The floor actually ended up not being the stupid MDF that they normally build trailer houses with. It was plywood. That was huge. All I had to do was repair a couple of spots where the bathrooms were, and I'm golden to go with that. I got one good picture in there of the one floor that was so rotten right by where the granddaughter, that's the bathroom floor I had to repair that he's looking at.
You're gonna add tax value.
Oh, tons of tax value. You're taking a dumpy trailer house that was put in there in the 70s and it's lived its life. I did everything I could to try and save that roof and stop it from leaking, but obviously I didn't with the amount of rotten floor and everything you can see in there. And I was ready to start putting the walls up a couple weeks ago when they were up there, and Matt told me no, that I need to stop, so that's why I'm trying to find out what I can do so I can move forward. I don't want to leave it exposed for the winter. I need to figure out if I'm covering, if I'm building, what I'm doing for this year.
I'm sure there's a reason. There's a reason for everything.
Right.
So we're gonna have to obviously we're gonna have to talk with and see, you know.
Yep, I figured as much.
Yeah.
And if I have to go to, he called it not the variance board, he called it something earlier when Bob was up here, but if I have to go to that board and talk to them about using that portion of the floor that has never had walls and floor on it, I would like to know so I can move forward and work with them and work with whatever to get this taken care of.
Sounds to me, yeah, if it didn't have a wall before, there's definitely have to be some consideration there, and there may not be allowable use depending on where you're at within that floodplain and within that distance too. I mean, and that would be up to, I think, at least some of those variances are up to the Board of Adjustment. But I don't know, like I say, I gotta get the whole picture too, to see. But yeah, if you can turn this into one of these over here, I know those houses, I know that one on Fifth has turned out really.
That's what I'm trying to do, and I've
really
got
nice
materials laying around, and we've been hauling materials up all summer because it's so hard to work on an island. You're hauling stuff by boat, you're hauling stuff across the lake. It's just, I wanted this done 5 or 10 years ago, and then the floods kept setting me back, and now here I am, 57 years old, trying to finish this, and I'm getting tired and old, and I need this done. So I need to make the focus and be done with it so I can relax and enjoy it instead of living this nightmare over and over.
We have all, I mean, do you have contact information that we can get a hold of you? Yourself?
Myself?
No,
I didn't leave my cell number in there, 218-244-6040.
So you have these 3 different items, right?
Yep, there's 3 items that you should have.
You have all 3?
No, I just have one.
You got one?
I think one got handed back to me.
Was it handed back?
Here's the last one for him.
Thank you.
Is there any more information that I need to gather for you? Anything I need to do?
Well, no, I mean, obviously we can look up the parcel ID number and all that kind of stuff online, and we can get all that.
There's a lot of inaccuracies on the parcel info. Dimensions, missing pieces, there's a lot of inaccuracies on that one, and I think it's due to it's an island, so it just didn't, that looks like it's 16 feet, no, it's 20, type of thing. So there's a lot of inaccuracies in that. And I've taken photos correct enough that you can see that the floor is exactly back where it was before, to try and make sure that you can see that it's not changing.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know the stipulations. I know there are stipulations on what you can and can't do, especially without a variance. And even with one, I'm not sure. I know that there's certain limitations that there are on especially things that are too close to certain lot lines or water.
Right.
I know that because I want to do the same thing. I want to expand, but without a variance, I cannot.
Right.
And I would have to go, halfway up the hill in order to do that without a variance, or I build in my existing area. But I have to have a couple of walls that are still there and things like this here that I can go up, but I can't expand it necessarily. So
right,
but,
and I'm trying to stay on the same footprint, single story. I just want to replace the crappy stuff with good stuff. I just want to use my island is all I want.
Yeah. All right, anybody have any questions?
And you've hauled all the stuff away?
There's a picture in there of a load on the boat.
Yep,
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Oh, that was fun.
I bet you it was.
Every trip up there was something up and something away. It's a painful process to deal with something this big on an island.
Can you get to this in the wintertime? Can you get a vehicle up there?
Sort of, kind of. The snowmobile trail goes right in front of me, so you can run snowmobiles with stuff behind it. Bob has been very courteous and allowed me to come down his road and then just walk through in waist deep water to get out to it. And he's been amazing help for me to be able to. This spring we were hauling stuff across knee deep in freezing cold water just to be able to get some stuff over there.
Yeah, you have a lot of current right there.
So is the water deep or is it shallow?
Between me and Bob, shallow. At full normal water, it's just above your knees, waist deep at the most, maybe.
Gotcha.
It was a sandbar. Actually, in 2002, it flooded. In 2003, it was so dry that the sandbar was exposed, so I was driving back and forth. So I hauled load after load. Glenn Thompson, wooden leg, couldn't fix anything anymore. He just got to be so old. He left, there was a trail with garbage piled as high as you could pile it on both sides of the trail. Everything was decrepit, everything was broke down, so we just hauled stuff off for that whole year and hauled stuff up for that whole year so I could start fixing. That was just the most productive. If it's low water and I can drive right over there, I'm driving over there as quick as I can.
Great. Well, we're definitely gonna look into, this here, and I know there's probably some explanations for it too, and then maybe there's a path forward too, so.
So I'm just looking forward, moving forward is what I'm after.
Right. Yep. No, yeah, we'll have questions and stuff, and certainly we'll get back to you, someone here, or, I know if you dealt with one of us, or with Matt, or with Adam, we can certainly get some answers to these questions and get them back to you of whys or why nots, or whatever, or what you need to do too, so just so you have information too.
I'll continue on hold until I hear something, and
we'll move as quickly as we can.
Build in town. I got all kinds of projects in town too.
No, you're not busy at all.
No, never.
Between that and teaching school?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have any other public comment in person or online? Hearing no public comments, I would ask for a motion to close a session to consider strategy for labor negotiations per Minnesota Statute 13D.03. I would accept that motion to.
I'll make the motion.
Close the meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Roach, seconded by Commissioner Hell to close the meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And we are closed.